me.
So on my road, like, yeah, before, I don't know, I didn't see anybody with archery, but this is like last week. There were
Muzzleloader was
guys,
last week.
oh, they were like unloading into the woods, you know, they were going.
Yeah.
It's right there, like,
Sure.
Well, this morning I saw a deer in our field
Oh.
at like 9 o'clock in the morning.
late.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
the
and it, you know, it was raising a little bit, it would go this way, and then it would go this way, and I wondered if it got like scooped out where it was spending the night.
Yeah, there was definitely shooting this morning. Although a month ago there was a lot of shooting behind my house. They go up, the bear dog hunters go up behind our house and use it. I can tell because it howls.
Yeah.
Hi, Richard.
Hi, Richard.
Howdy.
I was just in New York last week archery hunting for deer, which is a whole different world. It's amazing there's actually deer there.
Oh, wait, there's no deer here?
Barely.
Really?
Comparative to other states, this is like one
That's
of
why,
those.
that's why Emery goes to Pennsylvania and Indiana.
But why is there no deer here? Overhunted or just?
No, it's just,
Management.
there's,
It's not the same food.
the further north you get, the worse they get. You know,
The
Maine's
fewer they
pretty
get.
bad too. There's no ag land around here.
Yeah, Maine's terrible
So you
now.
go over to New York, Pennsylvania, whatever, there's a ton of ag land.
Yeah.
Oh,
So they're
Well,
well fed.
the deer like that.
Love it.
Yeah, because it's like open
Yeah.
land and
4:30.
corn.
Okay.
At 4:30, I will call the select board meeting to order on Thursday, the 14th of November. And, any changes and additions to the agenda?
No.
Okay, in that case, I make a motion to go into non-public under 91A32B.
Second.
Roll call vote.
You said yes?
There, yes.
Schaefer, yes.
Prentice, yes.
We are now in non-public at 4:30.
Yeah. And we want to know
See if you had more
what,
pictures.
I thought Fidium was doing it now that that's been consolidated.
Fidium,
Fidium is consolidated.
Oh,
Fidium
it
is
is.
a
They're
brand
just
of,
changing their name.
that
Consolidated.
confused me too at first, and I looked it up.
Okay.
Oh,
It's a branch of.
Got it. So Fidium's the parent?
okay, so
No.
should we sign both sides?
Consolidated
Yeah, okay.
parent?
And it's phasing
Okay.
out. They're
Thank
trying
you.
to get rid of all their bad garbage. They're gonna change all right over to Fidium. Consolidated
Got it, okay.
exists, I don't think,
Cool.
after a little bit, we're hoping.
I make
Hey,
a motion to come out of non-public at 4:59. Roll call vote.
Did you say yes?
There, yes.
Schaefer, yes.
Prentice, yes.
We are now in public session and the minutes are not sealed. And so we will open public hearing to hear comments on the potential acquisition by the town of donated land for general municipal use located at 374 Tamworth Road.
And is that a motion to open the public hearing? Or does that need to be a motion?
I think it needs to be a motion.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, it
Motion
does?
to open
Yep.
public
Oh,
hearing.
okay.
Yep.
That's a motion.
I
Second.
take that as a motion. Roll call vote.
Did you say yes?
There, yes.
Schaefer, yes.
Prentice, yes.
Now we have a public hearing.
Okay.
Are there any public comments?
Just to say, the parcel at hand at 374 Tamworth Road, map 202, lot 35, is being offered to the town as a donation. And we are having this public hearing to see if anybody has any questions about the gift.
Yes.
So,
Can you state your name for the record?
Mark, Dotato, Gilman Valley Road. So the owners of the land never had a current use, so, what were they paying for taxes on that land, about 5,000 a year,
4,400, yeah, 44 and change.
okay? And, that used to be an old lumber mill.
Yeah.
And, they used to treat wood there.
Yeah.
Has there been any, checked into any contamination of the property?
We've been working on, with different engineers and making speculations about what assessment needs to happen to make that determination. And at this point, with the feedback that we've gotten from Novus Engineering and Lakes Region Planning Commission experts, we feel comfortable that the risk is low and the benefit to the town is high to have that gift of over 12 acres. And that there's federal funding available should there turn up anything in the way of contamination.
Is there any plan, is there a wish list for that piece of property?
Depends on who you talk to, Mark.
That's gonna cost the taxpayers a lot of money.
Right now, there's no plan for the property. The, I don't know how many years ago, a group got together to talk about having a municipal safety building there, because our police station and our fire station are substandard for different reasons. But this board has not got any plan for the property, other than the fact that the town's needs are growing with the town's population and the times, and to have a parcel of more than 12 acres available right in the center of town seems like quite a gift. And we might not do anything with it for 100 years. There's no plan on the table right now. People have speculated what they'd love to see happen with it. The gift is being given to the town with no strings attached, so we can do whatever we'd like with it whenever we'd like, or we can leave it as it is. The Conservation Commission would like us to entertain, and this is the first board's hearing this because I just met with the Conservation Commission on Monday, would like us to entertain the idea of maybe conserving some of it, the river frontage portion, but we haven't discussed even that. That was just a recommendation from the Conservation Commission.
So if anything was gonna be proposed to happen there,
Yeah.
how would that, I'm just saying in the future, even now, how would that be addressed? How
Like what's
would,
a process, you mean?
yeah,
Yeah, I imagine, and anybody can jump in on this, but based on past municipal projects, you generally bring together a committee of people who, I'll use the model, and correct me, because Jim's in the audience and you were part of this, correct me if I'm wrong on how the process happened, but a group came together to talk about fire and safety building. And there was lots of conversation, there was lots of research, it was publicly noticed. Anybody who wanted to was allowed to be part of the committee. And so the process is that you do the research, you bring together a proposal, and ultimately it has to come to the taxpayers to decide whether it's a viable plan or not. But the process would all be committee-based, and that committee would be open to any Tamworth residents to be part of.
okay, thank you.
That was shot down by the town years ago. It wasn't a group that got together. It was a proposal they made at town meeting.
Right. Yep.
And
So
it was
that-
shot down.
So the process though, the question was about process, and the process is the committee would come together and create whatever decision it came up with and bring it to the town, and the town votes yea or nay.
The one thought that I've had that I would consider maybe an interim use of the property is, it'd be very easy to develop it as a small solar farm, simply as a way to get revenue for the town, while the land sits there, and maybe it has some value for a particular project 10 or 20 or 50 years from now, but in the meantime, we could make tens of thousands of dollars a year, every year, if it was developed as a solar farm.
But again, that's a thought that Richard's had, not that the board's talked about, or any committee's been formed to discuss. So if that were a thought that you wanted, if we acquired the land and Richard wanted to follow that through, a committee would be formed, and that process would go forward.
So, just Jim Bowles, just a little history on the fire station end of it. It's been known for quite some time that eventually the central fire station will need to be replaced, expanded, whatnot. right now, we order our trucks so they fit in there. Mutual aid trucks don't necessarily fit. If they come to cover our station, they don't go in there. In the winter, that's an issue. It's not an issue in the summer. They just park outside. So many, many years ago, the Board of Fire Wards started a capital reserve fund. This was in the, I'm gonna say the late 80s or 90s. Started saving money towards it. But then there was a period
I almost said it,
But then there was a period when the town decided that capital reserve funds were economically the best, most prudent way to raise money for such things, and dissolved all the capital reserve funds in 1 year except for one. So that went away, and over the years there's been 3 different I'll call them studies. They're not, no consultants were hired, done by townspeople, to determine if it was possible to reduce from 4 fire stations down to 3 by moving into a different location. Because for those that don't know, the key, and really it's the only reason economically you don't have a fire department, is to keep your insurance ratings down. Fire departments were started by insurance companies, not by municipalities in the old days. And it was a way to reduce claims, reduce the amount of money they had to pay out. So the way the insurance regulations work, you need to be within 5 miles of a rated fire station. All 4 of our stations are rated. Everything in town is covered the way it stands right now. But at 3 different times, groups tried to see if could we eliminate one of them by putting one in a different location. And the last 2 times, one of them was in the, I'm going to say between 2005 and 7, it was tried, and then one since then. The previous one was too far ago, I can't tell you what year it was. In all cases, we could not come up with a way to do that. So, brings us back to the central fire station is the one that eventually, I'm going to say in my lifetime, will need to be replaced. So, keeping in mind what I just said about everybody being within 5 miles of a rated fire station, it can only move so far from where it is. The piece of land that it's on is very small. In fact, the parking, as you face the fire station, the parking on the left is in an easement. It's like a 99-year lease, which is probably 50 years left of it. So there isn't room there. So I'm just going to refer to the last committee, which was a formed municipal building committee. I wasn't on it. I know I could list some of the people who were on it, but they met for, I don't know if it's every other month for a year or so. You know, they drew a radius in town, and it's a fairly limited area that you could replace that fire station in and still maintain our coverage without moving some other fire station. And this parcel, and that's when this parcel became really talked about a lot for a new fire station, is in that radius. It fits. So, you know, I'm not here to tell you that we need to do a new fire station next year, but I am here, I feel pretty confident in my life that we are going to need to replace that fire station because we can't man it. It just, you can't have people overnight. There's no way you're going to meet codes. And eventually, just the vehicle issues, size of vehicle issue is going to bite us, but we're making it work for now, and that's fun. They're not making more land. They're definitely not making more land in this center part of town. So I really think it is wise of the town to accept it. You know, I understand some people being, you know, afraid that the next step is we're going to want $20 million for some gigantic building or something, but yeah, that's a whole other issue that we
We don't have to, we could be like the Amish and build it together.
Sure,
That's a great
I'd
idea.
be there.
It'd be the
That's how we do
nicest
it.
looking fire station in the state.
I'd be there helping. Yeah,
Oh, I know you would.
absolutely, Mark. But, yeah, but I, like I say, they're not making more land, and it really has to go in a pretty limited area, or else then you gotta move some other fire station. Boy, if somebody's willing to give us a decent piece of property, and there's good soil there, I was at both mill fires, I know what was there before. I was really young at the first one though, just so you don't think I'm 80. Yeah, I was a very young teenager with a hose, I can remember it, you know, with a booster hose on a box truck tire that was burning. Yeah, it's probably about 12. So anyway, I think it's wise for the town to accept it. Sounds like you've done some of the environmental asking and whatnot.
Thank you, Jim. Any other comments?
This is Maureen Diamond calling in, but I may, first I want to thank Jim for his comments. You know, the institutional memory that he presents and the understanding of our needs is really.
Maureen, can you speak up a little?
Sure. Is this any better?
Hang on, Ed's gonna try to turn up the TV. Try now.
Okay, any better?
Oh, that's
Yeah,
better,
that's
yeah.
better.
Thank you, Ed.
All right. I just wanted to thank Jim Bowles for his comments, because that memory and history and understanding of regulations that he presents is very valuable. I have a couple questions, and I don't, the first one is kind of delicate, but I wonder if the donor has any expectations as a result of this donation. And my second question is, what would it cost the town to have a parcel like this if nothing happens to it, you know, for 10 years? What burden does that place on the taxpayers?
So the first question is answered, that the donor is giving us the land. When he first considered it, he had some requests for things that he didn't really want to see on the property. And he had a request that he would like to see perhaps like a riverside park that could be publicly used. And since that initial conversation, he has decided that the gift is no strings attached. It's whatever the town best thinks we should do with the property. And the second question was, say it again, please.
Cost of the town.
Cost of the town.
If it's not,
If it's not developed, right. Well, the
It's the
cost,
$4,400.
the cost of the
Yeah,
town is the loss in
not
taxes, which is $4,400, whether we develop it or not. Depending on, you know, whether there's some way to use part of the property to raise revenue is a different conversation, but there are possibilities, as Richard mentioned, for offsets, but we have not even, we're just trying to decide whether we can take the land, and then we'll worry about what comes next, but it would be the loss of the $4,400.
So I've only eyeballed it, you know, driving past. Are there any structures or anything on it
Yep.
that require maintenance?
There are, that require maintenance. Well, there are some garages on the property, and right now they're in disrepair. There's a leaky roof, so if we weren't doing anything with the property, then the buildings could just stay as they were. They are not likely salvageable buildings, so at some point, whatever the town decides to do with the property, whether it's now or 20 years from now, there'll have to be some demolition of those buildings. So that would be a cost that would have to be built into whatever project. But for now, if we're not using it, and there's been no determination of a project, and there's been no consideration of how to raise funds for that project, then the buildings do not need maintenance repair necessarily.
Thank you.
Thanks for the questions, Maureen.
The one thing I'd like to add to the conversation is we're very much aware of the past history of the buildings and the potential for contamination. I don't think it would surprise anybody in the room if there's some level of contamination for the property, because it was a lumber mill, it was a garage that had trucks in it, it had a couple of fires. The good thing though is there's funding now to do the environmental assessments, to know what the level of contamination is, and then there's funding again to do cleanup if that's required. So the federal government mostly, and it flows down to the state, has realized over the decades that if you have contaminated sites, they'll stay contaminated forever unless you provide funding for assessments and for cleanups, and that is in place. So that makes me comfortable taking something on with some slight risk, because we know that there's funding there to do the assessments and to do the cleanup.
Can we get a, before the next meeting, like a breakdown from the engineering firms that did site tests and see, kind of what?
We have not had site testing done yet, and that is because the current property owner has another potential sale purchaser, buyer for the land if we do not accept the gift. And what we've done so far is superficial search using historical record, using interviews, using what engineers know from, like you bring up the dipping shed. So the engineers know what kinds of, for this historical period, what would they have been using in that dipping shed, what are the likely contaminants. So that kind of work has already been done, but we haven't done soil testing, water testing, downstream sampling yet. We would have to do that once the town took ownership of the land.
Why not before?
Because the property owner is not willing to do that.
You want to sell it to somebody else then?
Well, that's a potential option.
We had reviewed this at the Tamworth Conservation Commission, and our concern obviously was about the environmental potential for risk.
Can you speak a little louder?
The discussion was about what the potential environmental risks might be in taking on this property with the town. We're aware of the federal funding that's available through Lakes Region Planning Commission specifically, and have a feeling that the select board has done due diligence in ascertaining that, making sure that funding is available. The nice thing about addressing that environmental liability is that whatever is there already, right?
Yep.
And so if it's having impact, obviously there isn't any really big thing because, it's not a wasteland. But if there is contamination there that's having some impact on the river or on wells or anything, this public process and this public funding is available to the town or to a nonprofit, but it would not be available to a private landowner. It's not available to the current landowner. And because of that, taking on the property, we as a Conservation Commission feel like the town taking it on means that if there is contamination there, it will be evaluated and a cleanup will actually happen. Whereas that would not necessarily happen if it's just a private transaction, it goes to a private person, because a landowner, well, realistically, would not necessarily want to investigate, because once they investigate and they find it, then they have to do something about it. So it's just going to go sort of the way it's always been, which is people won't know. This brings it out into the open and does a good evaluation and then does a cleanup, and the funding is there to do that. So I think in terms of environmental and why the Conservation Commission gave support for this project is because this will actually address that potential. And we think the risk is pretty low that it's any significant contamination, but of course we don't know. But this is a way that we'll get it done.
Okay, so to that, and just because Bruno brought up his feeling that, you could sell it. Well, I'm just putting this kind of out there, like just a general thing, right? So if the town accepts the property, and because the previous owner and now the current owner never had an issue. Nobody ever came and said, there's a problem on this piece of property and now you're gonna be responsible for cleanup. So if the town takes it and there seems to be a problem, and if the town can't get funding to do the cleanup, then the property is gonna have to just sit. If it's beyond the capability of the town to afford a cleanup on its own.
Or we could sell it.
Or we could sell it.
Right.
Again, but it's gonna, then it would have to be disclosed if anything was found,
Right.
and it was, all right? But I'm just saying that I don't see a real detriment to the town. Just looking at this, because it looks like there'd be funding if there was a cleanup needed. And if there was a contamination and there wasn't, if you're not gonna build, it can just sit
Right,
and be a park.
right. And the way that the cleanup works is that, you're only required to clean up contamination. It's not a best case like environmental scenario. You're only required to clean up contamination that is actively able to be ingested, breathed in, or touched with your skin and hurt somebody in those ways.
So if we were proposing a preschool and a playground, it would be entirely different than if we were proposing a fire station. Because
The level of
the
cleanup, the
level of
bar is
cleanup that would
different.
have to be done. Or, a solar farm, perhaps no cleanup,
Yeah.
so it depends on what you propose as to how far the cleanup has to go to.
Always my concern is just the amount of responsibility the town has to take fiscally,
Sure.
to get into any situation.
The good news is that the environmental process that we would go through for cleanup, by entering into that process, the town assumes no liability for the contamination. Meaning that if you, God forbid, got cancer from living next to that property, and it comes out 3 years from now and we own the property, we don't have any liability. Because we've gone through the process of trying to remedy the situation. It's another way that the federal government has tried to get some blighted spaces, old mills, whatever else, cleaned up, both for the fiscal benefit, in most cases, you're turning mills into apartments or whatever, but also for the environmental impact. And people don't want to touch things because of the liability, and so that's the first thing that you're absolved of by being part of this process. These are great questions.
Anything else?
The state law requires 2 public hearings. This is the first one. The second one's been scheduled. It'll be on the 26th of November. And the select board cannot make a decision until after that second public hearing.
It's the same format. Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you for coming. And we will close the public hearing. We need a motion to do that?
I'm not sure, so you might as well.
Okay, I move to close the public hearing regarding the potential acquisition of donated land.
Second.
Roll call vote.
You said yes?
Barry, yes?
Schaefer, yes.
Prentice, yes.
525.
At 5:25. All right, moving on to new business.
Looks like
I think
Jeff's up
Jeff
the
is
hallway.
outside the door here.
Thank you, Ned.
There he is.
Okay, I need to share.
Thank you, Richard.
You're up. All right.
Oh, I do multiple, right?
Yep.
Hi Jeff, Pam, good.
Good to see you.
Nice to see you too. Okay, then, to share this. Hi Jeff.
Hello.
I am using my not incredible skills to get this, to share this and have to remember. Where's my Zoom meeting?
You have the IT selectmen.
Yeah, I was
I
gonna
what?
say.
The
I
IT
know,
selectmen.
thank God he's here. Great blessing. Where's my, how did I get to my Zoom?
Better step in.
I don't know, she's got it. Yeah, I got total confidence.
No, you shouldn't have total confidence. Okay. Join meeting. Oh, no, I have a meeting. Meeting ID.
Jeff, it gets pretty warm in this place. Because there's so many bodies. Get warm.
And it looks
Getting there, hang
like there's a
on.
camera pointing this way
Look
too.
for.
Yeah, I had nothing to do with this.
Okay.
He's not even
That
here.
camera's
Oh.
built into that thing.
It's a
that looks
figment of
like-
your imagination.
So
Jump right
if
in,
I
Steve.
went up here and went out into the PowerPoint, that's our.
Okay, now I'm joining the meeting. And now I wanna share, right? Am I in the meeting? Host has joined.
Yeah,
Oh,
you gotta
I
mute
gotta
yourself.
let. Where is my?
Upper right. You're in the waiting room.
Admit. Okay.
Now you're in.
Okay. Now I wanna share.
Wait, you're asking what we done on mute?
I wanna share this.
So, proper.
Okay. Oh, it's a miracle.
All right.
Okay.
Actually, if you don't mind, I'll probably prefer to stand.
Please, feel free.
Stretch my legs out.
And you can tell me when to click through.
All right. So this is actually a very exciting meeting for me to be in front of you all today. I believe our conversation started back in 2020. So it's been like a good 4 years of us talking about how can we bring fiber to this town. And if you think back to 2020, 2019, Chesterfield, New Hampshire became our first public-private partnership town. They did a bond approach, and then after that, 22 towns went down that same bond approach, where the town took out a bond, they paid us to fund a fiber network. We built it, and those towns are, they have a 20-year agreement with us to maintain and support it. However, because of COVID, the state received a great deal of funds, maybe 130 million, to go towards grants to provide funds for broadband. Now, back in 2021, I believe, we then were here asking for support for a $50 million grant. That grant ended up actually going to the New Hampshire Electric Co-op with New Hampshire Broadband. I believe it was maybe 8 to 10 months later, the state announced a $40 million grant. Now the $40 million grant was the one that actually was awarded to us. Again, thank you for your town. You guys actually showed a lot of support, wrote letters, and helped us to actually receive that grant. So again, we're very thankful for your support with that. Fast forward to 2023, we finally received that first round of funds in May of 2023. Throughout the rest of the year, it went towards engineering. The first, I think it was like 6 or 7 wire centers getting prepared, and now we're at January 2nd of this year was when we actually finally started to break ground. So actually, I might be jumping ahead a little bit, but if we go down, so this is a little bit of my agenda, introductions, and I'm sorry, I even skipped that one. So again, my name is Jeff McIver. I've been with Consolidated Communications for almost 15 years now. I've been in this role for almost 7, working with communities such as yours and trying to figure out how we can bring these fiber networks to them. Like I was alluding to, the state with these grant funds has really helped us. This project alone I believe there were 36 wire centers, 56 total towns, I believe, benefited from this $40 million grant just through us alone. What have we been up to? So I actually have a table that'll help show that. And then what it means to Tamworth. You might have actually started to see trucks as soon as this week. So we do have trucks starting to come to town with the spools of fiber, and they'll actually be starting to overlash that fiber on the lines. And then Q&A, so we can go through any questions that you might have. I do include this slide right here. Greg Povey isn't with me tonight, but he is in charge of all construction for our New Hampshire projects. Here's my information here. So the town does have that. If you were to send out emails or if you have questions, include both of us on it. We both will get back to you. I do play, I'll continue to play point for the company as we continue to move forward, even after the construction's done. If you need help with maintenance, if you see a line down, if you have questions about pricing, really anything. A product, you have a resident that has a question about their product, I'm here to help you all out with that. All right, and actually we can probably skip one more. All right, so this is really the meat of what we've been doing this year.
Oops.
So what you're seeing here.
Which one did you want?
Oh, this one. You're on the correct one.
Okay.
If we go to maybe play the slideshow, I think it'll get a whole lot bigger so everyone can see this information.
It seems to be a little lag.
There we go. All right. So this is going to give you an idea on what we've been up to this year. So January 2nd, if you don't mind, I'm going to go over to this side. Am I still good?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's good.
All right, so Alstead, Berlin, Gorham, these three wire centers is how we kind of kicked off the year. We built them in roughly, everything's been built in roughly 3 to 4 months. This process that we use is very quick. Our infrastructure is already on the lines out there. We lay that fiber right over the top of our copper line, and then we do something called overlashing. It makes these builds extremely fast. So this grouping went first, then Molten Borough, Winchester, Center Harbor went next, and then you're talking about Littleton, Hancock, Madison, were really like our April, May, June wire centers. Sunapee, Milan came second. After that, the only one that really gave us a little bit of a trouble was, you can see Errol, we started in March. There's a remote terminal that we needed electricity to go to. It took a little longer for us to complete. But other than that, everything you'll see up here is about 3 to 4 months for us to complete, sometimes 5 months. But everything in green is in process. Pittsburgh, Bethlehem, Jefferson, Bartlett, Center Harbor, and Tamworth are all underway at this point. These numbers you see at the bottom this is the grant addresses for the state. There's 24,757 total that we need to build to. We have already built to 17,088 this year. And then total passings, I think we're going to end up somewhere around 60,000 addresses. We've already built to 43,513 so far this year. So we've been extremely busy. The weather's been great, which definitely helps. And again, our goal is to finish out the rest of these wire centers by the middle of June next year. We actually have until the end of 2026 to finish our work, but we're going to finish things up 1.5 years early. Any questions on this table while we're here? Yes.
I think your West Ossipee is in the last, or Center Ossipee is in the last. You said Center Harbor.
Oh, and I'm sorry, I probably meant to say Center Ossipee.
Okay.
So Center Harbor, we do have a wire center up here.
Right.
And the interesting about Center Harbor is it really feeds all of the second half of Molten Borough. So if you cut Molten Borough in half, Our Center Harbor Wire Center, I think, only feeds about 200 addresses on the Center Harbor side, but those lines all go into the western side of Moultonborough. So it actually, I believe there's like 4,000 addresses that it serves in Moultonborough,
Right.
and then the rest is on the Moultonborough Wire Center.
Not to be too provincial, but we don't care about Moultonborough or Center Harbor.
Yeah.
We care about Tamworth, and if Ossape's next to Tamworth, we care about them as well.
Yes, and I believe Ossipee might serve a few of
Probably West Ossipee, yeah.
and so we'll have both of those going at the same time right now.
I don't want to say, I don't need a long answer. When did you wire Conway and Albany?
So Conway was actually done with our own capital.
Okay.
Conway and
Before the
Albany.
40 million?
And yes, and that
44
happened
million.
back in 2023, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
I think it was like fall of 2023.
And Albany?
Same thing. So
Okay.
it's part of
That's
that
good.
Conway Wire Center.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
When will Tamworth be done, and when will the people who have signed up have service?
So Tamworth right now is scheduled to be done, so I have March 15th as our goal right now. Again, weather dependent. If we have a milder winter, it works in our favor for building out the network. And then once everything's lit up, so, and you'll see actually in the next slides, but there's a 3 phases that we go about it. So it's fiber placement, which is laying that fiber on the line. And then there's splicing it, which is connecting those points. And the last part is testing it. So the placement and the splicing takes about the same amount of time. However, when we have multiple crews, they can do that work in parallel, which saves time. And then testing normally takes around 2 to 3 weeks for them to complete that. Now, once everything is up, we try to be as efficient as possible. So if you haven't seen it yet, we have a landing page specific for Tamworth. Residents can go on there and they can pre-order, is what it's called right now. Now, it's not any kind of a agreement, it doesn't bind you to anything, but what it does is, it tells us where the interest is in town as far as pre-ordering. It allows us to send out information to those residents. And then third, there's actually a box in there that if you check it, it says, do you give us approval to go ahead and run a line from the pole to outside the home? Now what this will do is that we can actually do that in advance before things get brought online to save some time. So then all we're doing is the install within the house. And what we'll do is we'll go down streets and we'll do all those lines up to the house. And then once, again, everything is up and we're installing, it makes it that much quicker for us to run down the street. So it's normally pretty quick turnaround as far as installs go. But we'll start it as soon as possible.
And that page is on your website?
Yeah, so fidiumfiber.com.
So we should link it to the town website?
I was gonna say, should that be on the town website if it sounds like that helps you move along more quickly.
It would. I know some towns have like a Facebook page. Utilizing a town website, anything that the town is good with.
So maybe you can
works
send
with
me a
us.
link.
Definitely,
Okay.
yeah. And so you'll go to the site, you'll pick New Hampshire, then you'll pick the town, and then there's a pre-order, or then there's put in your address will populate, and then you'll be able to pre-order from there.
I think it's important if we put it on the website that there's some explanation so that people know when they follow that link that they're not gonna get a big bill for this. Because that's gonna keep people from,
Yeah, and people, I think, get concerned that they're signing up, or they're under contract, right? So that communication's important too in there, that it's not anything binding, it's
do
not
you
signing up.
have language already crafted that you share with people that would be useful for us to put with this link on the website?
So what I'll do is, Kyle Tweet is his name, he works on more of our social media and press.
Great.
And I think he'll have language already set up for that. Also, as we get closer to launch too, and if the town would be interested in press, we're always looking for quotes and support there too, so I know he'll be probably asking those questions, so we could talk a little earlier and
And I pre-ordered a couple years ago, and it's pretty clear on the Fidium
Is it okay?
website that it's you haven't really made a deal, you're just showing an interest. So at some point, the deal will have to be consummated.
Right.
So it's pretty clear.
Good.
Ossipee, the town of Ossipee, if you go to their website, they have a link also, and that's where they have theirs on their website.
Mhm.
Just go to their homepage that says, broadband is coming to our town, sign up now.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Any other questions with this table?
Keith, you got something on your screen?
Sorry. I was just letting Emery in.
All right.
Oop, sorry. I think that's the last.
Okay, so we're at this like pre-construction, fiber construction portion right now. Disregard the start Q1. But the splicing portion takes about 2 to 3 months. Testing and pre-ordering 1 to 2, so that's where you get like the 3 to 4, I would say, is where we normally land with the amount of time it takes for us to build. I know we had on there, what was it, December, or right now to March, to be completely honest, and don't hold it against me, but I would think that we finish before that, even the March date. Again, as far as the weather goes, fingers crossed. So here again, total passings that we have, so 2,266 addresses we plan to build to for Tamworth. 1,256 are grant addresses, so it's an extra 1,000 addresses that we plan to build on top of that with our own capital. Again, estimated start November and then finish in March. All right, and then the next slide. So suggested communication plan. Every town is different. I'm willing to, I think people are going to be excited. There's going to be expectations out there. However, I can help support you guys over these next few months to help with those expectations. So on the next slide, you'll see a sample of the communication. But as far as how often you would like to see an update, I'm happy to provide that.
Mm-hmm.
This is Richmond, New Hampshire, or Winchester, Richmond. So what this is showing here is this is our fiber map, right? And each one of these areas, and I'm sorry, I wish I would have did a better one, but each one of those kind of areas in here would be a different color. And what those represent is a fiber distribution hub. So in this case, there's 13 fiber distribution hubs throughout town. We'll have this color coded, and what this can do is when I send this off, if I live in, on Burt Hill Road, now hopefully, it could be red over here and it'll have the word red next to it. I can look at, okay, we're 50% done with the fiber build. We're 25% done with the splicing. And what I think this does is it just helps with expectations. Like, well, I saw them out here with a truck yesterday, right? They put the fiber on the line, probably will be next week. Well, I wish it was that quick, but it does help with that. So it'll give me an opportunity to, talk about, how things are going. You can see, where we've been, how the build's going, how the splicing's going. Help set those expectations, give me a chance to provide any other input, and then if we do run into anything, it probably wouldn't be this communication, I would be getting a hold of you right away, but maybe it gives me an opportunity to update on maybe if we ran into any kind of an issue, so. All right. And that's everything I have for this evening.
It's pretty exciting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other?
I've got a whole bunch of
All right.
questions, Jeff, and I hope they're not too blunt. But are you running fiber optic along any of your competitors' lines on the same streets?
Yep, so there's always a chance of it. So the way that the town, or the way that the state did the grant work was, New Hampshire Electric, they had their list of addresses. We had to make sure that we didn't duplicate grant addresses. They paid them to do a grant address. We couldn't have that grant address paid for out of the state. Now, we may, you know, with that other 1,000 addresses, we might have our line, you know, our line would probably be there today. So what we're, and maybe this is a better way to say this, what we're trying to do is we see this as an opportunity for us to update our wire center that runs throughout town. So right now we have that copper line, we're putting that fiber line on top of it.
What are you doing about where the copper line is disintegrating? How are you taking care of that? 'Cause
So,
there's
yeah.
disintegration in the copper here and there. It's happened in Tamworth and a bunch of places.
So eventually we'll most likely be taking the copper away.
Okay.
I don't have a plan for that today, but supporting 2 networks isn't really feasible. But as far as today goes, I don't have a plan for that. And most likely, if we were to do that, it wouldn't be like, you know, overnight kind of thing.
Right.
There'd be plenty of advance warning on that, and then also we would figure out ways to make it work for those residents too. There's a chance we may just look at taking away the DSL, leaving the phone lines, you know, in a way. So
Right.
there's different ways that we can go about it to make it, you know, an overall better experience.
So is it my understanding that you are not running your fiber along every road in Tamworth, in all 5 villages?
I can say, I wouldn't be confident saying
Not
yes or
all
no at
roads,
this
right.
point.
When would we find that out?
Chances are, if you see that our copper line is running down a road, there's a good chance that we're gonna build to it. But I can't stand here and say that 100% of the town will be covered. One thing is I do have those grant addresses.
Right.
That's a good start, right? So we have to build to those grant addresses. So if you had, you know, some addresses that you had any questions about, you can send them over and we can.
I got a
we
lot
can-
of them.
Perfect. We can go through them.
I've been walking the roads for 2 years.
Well, if they're not on the grant list, then I'll have our total, I think it was what, 22,600?
6, yeah.
We can look at that whole end user list once I have that. But, you know, you and I can do a little homework on
Yeah, guys I work for, or not work for, I'm part of something called the Carroll County Communications District, which was set up to help bring internet to our rural Carroll County. And so I got to meet Jeff quite a while ago. Actually, mostly we were always on Zoom together. It's the first time I've actually physically met you. First time I was on there, he said something and I said, that wasn't right, and I came right out on the internet, so it wasn't right out on the Zoom, so it wasn't very appropriate. Are you placing boxes on each house, or do you, as you were saying before, you have to ask first to get permission?
Yeah, so
Because you went ahead and placed boxes on houses in, say, Portland, Maine, because my certain relative of mine was in Portland, and all of a sudden there was a box and no one asked him.
Yeah, I'm not sure about
Okay.
that,
Where
but
would
I
we
do know
find
that
out?
they'd have to check
Okay.
those boxes, so I don't know about that
Yeah.
circumstance.
And then,
But please, you know, if that was an issue in any way.
oh no, it actually was lovely.
Oh, good, okay.
Because I talked to just about everybody I run into about internet and internet coming and Fidium coming, and we had a lovely section of one of our villages that got infiltrated by New Hampshire broadband, because they just went over the border a sandwich, and they got really excited because they were in a very hard pocket up there. But there's a lot of people that are very dissatisfied with one of your competitors. And
I bet I know which one that is.
and they're really looking forward to getting the option. So, as a Carroll County Communications District person, I'm not allowed to root for one competitor or another, but that's the word that I get.
Well, and you know, at the end of the day, it's great if both of us are in, you know, town, because it does give people options, and competition's is a good thing too. It's gonna.
So do you have a really long list?
Of people?
No.
Questions.
Questions?
I can stop now, because I can
Because
talk to him
perhaps you can
before.
talk to
You
him.
can, or
directly.
feel free to email.
I have, and you haven't answered, but I'll
Oh.
try again.
All right.
But anyway, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Yes.
you for your presentation.
Thank you so much. Thank
Looking
you for
forward
this
to this.
opportunity.
This
It's great.
Thanks.
And please email me, call me if there's any other questions or
Okay.
if you guys think of anything else. Thank you.
Thank you.
All
Thank you for
Thank
coming
you so
over.
much.
Appreciate it.
And you can chat with him in the hall too. We just,
Yeah.
we just got a
Yeah,
thousand more.
No, it was great to know that he was
conversations.
coming. Yeah, I'm sorry to take up your time, thank you.
No, no, so
That's
it's,
all
it's
right.
good, it's good.
I can stick around. if you want.
Yeah, I'll just grab a business card from you, thank you. Thanks, everyone.
See you. Don't forget your coat.
And next, we will move on to the budget discussion.
Yes, okay. So,
5 p.m.
share this.
Oh, good job, it went so fast that
Oh,
time.
I know, it's just, I'm a genius, what can I tell you?
Good teacher.
Oh my gosh, okay, and then supposedly, is that full screen?
Well, if you minimize the view on the right, you'll get it bigger.
Minimize the view on the right. It's like when you talk to me, my brain stops.
So you use your host machine,
Yeah. What?
your host machine,
Oh,
and you change up here the view options,
Oh, okay.
and then
Zoom ratio? No.
side by side mode is turned on. I think that's what you want off. When you zoom it up.
So wait.
Try turning side by side mode on.
Uncheck it.
There you go.
Okay,
And then you can either
That's a
drag
little
that window
bigger.
or
Okay.
put it overlay.
okay,
That's much better.
so, now I gotta get moved this out of so I can see the numbers.
You want it smaller?
So, I'm gonna start, I guess I'm just gonna jump right in.
Okay, yeah.
There's a range of different topics that
I know.
you all, and I'm just sort of the guide here, to the different budget things. So, let me get down, how do I move around? Why is this not moving? There we go, okay. So I'm gonna start down here, I mean, a lot of this conversation is about, how you wanna use the unassigned fund balance. And as you know, you voted to spend $425,000 in tax relief for 2024. And so when we started in 2024, according to the audit, we have $2.5 million in the unassigned fund balance. You then voted to use $425,000, and that brought us to 1.831. I am estimating, and I think it's a conservative estimate, but you know, that remains to be seen, that we'll get 400,000 back. And that would bring us to an approximate unassigned fund balance of about 2.2 million at the beginning of 2025. So, like every year, you have two ways you can use that money. You can use it to offset purchases that the town decides to make, and then towards the end of the year, you use it to offset the tax rate, should you choose to do that. So what I've laid out in these two columns are different ways you can use the unassigned fund balance. And obviously, there's more choices than that. You can decide to take something off the budget entirely. You can decide to have something be on the budget and fund it with tax dollars. You can have something be on the budget and pay for it with the unassigned fund balance, or any combination of the above. So, in this scenario that I'm going to show you, there's a range of money, of unassigned fund balance use that ranges from just about 300,000, if you can see where my arrow is now, to 804,000. When we talked about using portions of the unassigned fund balance, I had said you could probably be comfortable with the 6, 7, 800,000 range total. You've already spent 425, so what does that mean for what you've got to decide on right now? Well, maybe you're in maybe the 3 to 400 is a reasonable range to be in. 800 maybe not. On the other hand, if you did spend all 800 of it, you'd still be within the town's policy of 8 to 15%. So if you only spent 300, you're going to be at the upper end. You're still going to be just under 15, but So that just kind of gives you the framework.
But that
okay?
framework doesn't account for the fact that we're going to, at year end, have more money going back into the unassigned fund balance this year, right?
Well, it does, because
Where does it-
at the end of 2024, go away, little screen. Oh, shoot.
Is it canceled?
Cancel. At the end of 2024, I'm estimating, so we're starting with 2.23.
So the
That's
assumption's in there.
Right.
So that
Okay.
assumption is in there. Now, if you were to spend all 800 and you get down to 10.45, that doesn't leave you a lot of room to play with on
Next-
relieving the tax burden.
Next year.
However, your budget might be so low that that's a non-issue. So, it's just kind of it's looking at all those pieces. So, what I'm gonna start doing is, first I'm gonna click that out of the way. I'm gonna
Oh
go.
my God, buy a new computer.
I'm gonna start going
This is
through
terrible.
what the different ranges, what the different options are, budget-wise, okay? So I'm gonna start with what I think are some relatively easy ones. The capital reserve appropriation. So what is in here are what the CIP, the capital improvement process document, recommended to put in the budget. I put those all in. So you've got, they recommend $250,000 for bridge repair and $152,000 for a fire vehicle. When we spoke with Jim about the budget, what was like 3 weeks ago, I think now, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jim, I believe that you're comfortable delaying that for a year, the start of the capital reserve savings account. No?
I don't remember that, no.
Oh, okay,
No.
then maybe I just misunderstood.
No,
So,
we knew we could raise less money for the, I'll just call it the final amount, or final payment for the fire truck that's ordered.
yeah, that one's a done deal.
Than we anticipated,
Yeah,
but starting saving for the next one, we were changing.
okay, so you wanna start saving for the fire truck in 2025,
Right.
not 2026.
Right.
Okay, so that is
Well, when-
something,
It comes, obviously, it's a matter of, do we wanna raise it a little at a time, or do we wanna move
Yeah.
more another year?
Oh, so when do you need another truck? I mean, if you're getting a brand new one this year,
Right.
what are you anticipating?
So, it's all in the CIP, and I don't wanna say something
No, you're, so the
that's
question
opposite,
though,
but it's like 6 years.
right,
6 years to raise the money.
Yeah.
so our question
It's like
though is,
five, we're on a 5-year cycle, we're trying to get back to 7 in our goal. Keeping trucks, replacing them at about 30 years, when they're 30 years old,
Mhm.
that's what we're trying to get to.
And so the question is though, if we start saving next year and push back the acquisition of that new truck that we're saving for, keep it on its 6 or 7 year cycle, whatever it is in CIP now, we're just saying you would get that new truck 1 year later than is
That's-
currently on paper in CIP.
I don't think we wanna do that. I don't think, the 30-year thing, we're running a fine line between spending more money, keeping trucks in service
Mhm.
than it's worth. So, it's a gamble,
Yeah,
so the Board of Fire Wards is really trying to keep to that schedule. Whether we raise more the first year.
Or it wouldn't push it out farther, you just have to
Second year.
raise a little more each year to
Right.
stay on.
Right,
Right.
So
exactly,
there's 2 ways.
yeah.
exactly.
And I
Right.
think, if I'm not mistaken, the CIP had, most future years were about $500,000, except for next year, which was like $2.5 million.
well,
So-
always the next year
But
is
it's
bigger.
always bigger,
So
yeah.
clearly, we need to nudge, we need to nudge a few things forward and find other ways to pay.
So let's go, so that's really important input, I had probably misheard it at the last meeting. So let's, move to the next thing and see where we go with that. And that would be the $250 for the bridge repair, and, for bridge capital reserve repair. And that is, in talking, we have no red flag bridges after Depot Road. We're spending $350 to repair that bridge in 2025. It seems like a lot to add $250 to the capital reserve and $350 for a bridge.
Yeah.
And have spoken with Richard Roberts, and he did feel that we could wait a year on that one. And start the capital reserve the following year.
Because as of now, we'll be done next year, until they go out and inspect more bridges.
Right.
Right, which
Yeah.
they're always doing, and one could pop up any time, but right now, there are no red flags. And when I started, even just 2.5 years ago, there was Scott Road, Mountain Road, Depot Road, and
Maybe
I feel like there's another one. So we've really made great progress on repairing bridges. And so the question is, you know, should we like spend what's in the capital reserve right now? And on that note, we had budgeted in 2024, $250,000 to repair the Mountain Road Bridge. The good news is the bill came in at $156,000. So we have $94,000 left over from that project, which means our capital reserve number is, it's about 265.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, something like that. And I know Emery and I, he's on the call, by the way. He's on Zoom. Had a chance to talk about it, and his feeling was, Emery, do you want to say it, or you want me to?
You can.
Okay.
That's fine, sorry.
That's okay, I know you're in transit. Was that it made more sense to spend the capital reserve, which is much less flexible money, and then therefore you would spend less unassigned fund balance, which is flexible money. And then we start to build up the capital reserve in 2026. So if that were the case, then you would, that's one option.
Yeah.
So,
That seems like an obvious choice.
okay, so
I could make a motion.
I don't think you have to motion
you
it
don't?
because,
Okay.
because basically the
We're just
budget.
That's
changing
just
the
a
numbers
choice.
in the budget.
Yeah,
Okay,
and
all
then you'll eventually have a public hearing and this will all
All
be
right.
voted on, right?
All right.
So I can just,
Yeah, let's use that 265 or 268, whatever.
it might help if I knew where the delete button was. I'm not used to working on this computer. So in that case, what I do is I can, you know, take it out of both the unassigned fund balance and the expense side. So that brings our budget number right now down to 5.2 million. And by the way, when you're comparing 2024's current budget with 2025, this has a $300,000 placeholder for a radio grant for the fire department. So it sort of inflates it both on the revenue and the expense side, just FYI. The budget is actually, you know, from a taxation raising perspective, much lower, and I'll bring us down there in a second. Okay, so for now, I'm gonna leave that 152 for the fire truck
I'm
in.
gonna ask another question then, Jim.
Yeah,
So, this fire truck, I'm just looking at the CIP doc. So this fire truck would be purchased in 2030, and it's 930,000? That's what you're anticipating?
Doesn't sound right to me.
That, I'm just looking
I
at
go
the.
up to my truck, I think I got a bunch of it in my.
I think it's
briefcase.
2029, but
So then the 170,000
That sounds,
is the next,
900 sounds like the remainder of this truck that's ordered plus that one. That sounds a little high.
okay.
let me see.
Do you wanna just look at it?
Exactly.
So the fire truck capital reserve, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
And then there's a 170 and 20.
So that's
30.
That's 300, 600, 750 plus 170 is 930. Yeah.
you've got expended 760 in 2029.
I don't ever remember, let me go out to my truck, because I don't remember having a,
The 170.
yeah, they're all the same.
Yeah, and we don't have to do it right this second. I'm just
figured it out.
looking at it to think about the timing, and I'm looking at what if we bump up that 152 by 25,300.
Yeah, so that's 25 if you divide it.
Yeah, if we divide it out. And then the 170 and 2030 threw me with a, I mean, because 930 just seems high.
It does,
Yeah.
doesn't seem,
Can you just email that to Keats?
sure.
You don't have to get it right now, just so we can.
Yeah.
Yep, thank you.
I believe Sorry, I believe the 170 would be the new amount for the next fire truck, because they figured that the fire truck, like, after that one would be more, so then it'd be 170 every year for so many years.
That was my guess.
So that would get you to 750 for a truck, does that
Yeah.
sound more like
Yes,
Yes,
Okay.
that
That makes
sounds more
sense.
like what I was,
thinking? Okay.
in
Okay,
like 2030 something.
And you buy the truck in 2029 for 750.
Mhm.
you know, yeah, I bet you're right, Emery. So the 170 starts the next series,
Okay.
Yes.
the truck after.
so then
That
that's
makes a lot of
the,
sense.
so is this,
Yep.
is this E2 that you're replacing in 2029?
Yes.
Okay, so then it's down 2 lines, that's why. The it's,
Yeah,
in 2029, it's a 760.
Because we always have
Okay.
the money this year, so we can sign the
Right,
contract and the
right.
truck comes the following year. So that's probably what
Okay,
confusion is.
thanks, Emery.
Okay, so now I'm gonna move to, another section, capital improvements. And we put 120 into the budget, which are both CIP recommendations as well. And that 120 was for transfer station, one was the backhoe, and the other was the compactor. Sure. And I think that the compactor is, it seems to me sort of a non-negotiable, that we really should put it in the budget, because if it crashes and burns, we don't have a transfer station. So get that in the budget. The backhoe, which is in rough shape, one question that came up is, it's possible it could be paid for out of the transfer station improvement process money. It's possible that it could last another year and go into the budget the following year. And so I just put a scenario here again, you can do whatever you want, mix and match. But what I did is I took out the 75,000 for the backhoe in the hopes that it could be funded under the improvement money. And therefore, you would just use 45,000 of unassigned fund balance to offset the compactor. And so that's a decision you all need to make.
And one other possibility there is the bathroom is out to bid now. If we don't get bids, one of our thoughts was immediately take the money that we didn't bid out because we didn't get bids, or we don't award bids for whatever reason, pay for a compactor before the end of this year.
And then you could take it out of the budget.
Because
you
then
all
we
have
could
to
use
just-
ARPA money.
Right, and
So
you
that-
could use that and then it will come out.
Right.
Um,
If we do get bids and do award it, that money isn't there, but if for whatever reason we don't award bids, there's money sitting there that has to be used by the end of the
Yeah.
year. So we immediately shift to a compactor.
Okay, so for now, do you want me to leave
Can I ask
the-
another scenario?
Yeah,
So the question is, we don't know if the grant, if there will be money after the project left in the grant to cover
Until we bid everything out.
until we bid everything out. And the rationale for putting the compactor in the budget now, 45,000, is because if it dies, we're in trouble.
Mhm.
Did we not create expendable trust for town equipment with $50,000 in it just for that kind of scenario?
Yes and no. We did. However, in the language needs to be corrected in the next town meeting because it says to repair and maintain, and it does not say to purchase. And that was a miscommunication between our attorney. And
So we need to add or replace maybe.
So,
Right.
so repair, maintain, and purchase. And so that's and there's two ways to fix that.
Yeah.
You can either cancel out the expendable trusts that exist and vote in new ones, or if you get a 2/3 vote, you can just add the
Change the
word to
language.
the, yeah.
So the bottom line is, right now, that's not gonna help us.
No.
Okay.
But I think there's a good
Now,
chance
could
that would survive.
Sorry,
Yeah.
didn't mean to interrupt. Could that, if, like, say we didn't put tobacco in the budget next year, and, something happened and the one we have died, could we use some of that 50,000 to rent short-term for like a month or two to get by? Or is
Yes,
that not an option either?
I think that would be an option. I would have to check with the town attorney, but I believe it would be. Repair and maintain.
And if we change the wording as of April, we could buy
As
the
of
backhoe.
March, yes. Then it will be available for,
So we just need to make sure the backhoe stays around till April 1st, then we should be fine.
March 15th.
Another thing I think the board should consider is the big use for the backhoe is pulling cans, pulling the MSW cans. And if we had a second ground level compactor, which would be a lot less than a backhoe, like we've talked about wanting to
Right.
add 2 compactors, lots of benefits there. We should not have the need to pull the cans at all. That's part of our waste management hauling contract. They should be pulling the cans
They do
themselves.
the work, right.
And if we're no
So that will
longer,
save the backhoe.
we will save from beating up the backhoe violently by not having to pull those cans. It's already beaten hard, so it needs to be replaced at some point, but just another option we should consider.
That buys some time. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
right.
But I guess it does make sense to put the compactor in, just in case, and to push the backhoe out 1 year.
Okay. Is
Yeah,
that everybody?
The
Yeah.
replacement compactor, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
So, fire truck stays.
Did we actually, okay, so going to the bridge, the funding of the Depot Road Bridge repair, which is a $350,000 bridge repair, did we come to a conclusion about using all the capital reserve and less, did
Yes.
you all
Yes.
agree on
Yeah,
that?
we did.
Okay, so
We did.
fine. Okay, so that's that. All right, so let's see, I've gone over the fire truck, we did the bridge capital reserve. Okay, so now I'm gonna go to a suggestion on how to fund the position for the police department. And let me get up to PD, hang on. Oop, there we go. Okay, so year over year, and Dana is not alone in this, just about every town in New Hampshire is struggling to hire police officers. And so every year Dana puts in about $120,000 to fund a new officer. And that includes all the retirement and health insurance and everything plus salary. And then we don't hire one until the money goes into the unassigned
Right.
fund balance. So one thought that we came up with to try and ameliorate that constant refunding of that position is to, in year one, fund half of it in an expendable trust and half of it in the regular budget. So, in that scenario, you would have a full year's funding. And if you find a police officer, yay, right at the beginning of the year,
Right.
you've got half right there. Let's say you don't hire somebody till August. You still have money in your operating budget, and the money you put in the expendable trust is available the following year for the second position, as it is a 4-person police department. And if you don't hire anybody, which is what's happened the last 2 years, there was a short-term person at one point, then you only have to, again, raise half of the money rather than the whole amount. So it helps you not keep repeating that sort of big raise. So in these 2 columns, you've got, this is the scenario where you're raising for the whole position. It doesn't save any money this year. It really is a 2026 savings. And so basically these 2 columns, I've cut in half the related health insurance and the related retirement money and the salary. And so that money you find down here, the other 64,000 would be down here in a expendable trust fund, police officer salary and benefits for 1/2 here. Now, again, you can mix and match this, you can, I put in money in the unassigned fund balance for that, for the expendable trust, 64,000. But you can raise it out of taxation, you can make it the whole position, you can, there's lots of different.
And this is for the 4th position, the 3rd
No,
position
this
is
is
still
the
in the
third-
budget. We're talking 3rd.
No, we're
Okay.
talking the 3rd position. So if you think of the police officers as sort of, there's the chief, there's the part-time, and then there's slot 1 and slot 2.
Yeah.
And this is for slot 1.
Yeah.
If you hire and fill that, then you can use the unexpended for slot 2.
Mhm.
And if you don't, then it's still there for slot 1. And let's say miracle of miracles, you hire in 1 year and then you hire in the 2nd year, you can spend down the expendable trust and close it.
Right.
But it allows you to raise less in 26 and theoretically in 27. So,
So this scenario is half of position number 3
Slot one.
call it slot one,
Okay.
yeah.
And so what decision, you haven't talked about what happened with the slot 2 then?
Well, slot two, you're not gonna,
We wait until we
The
have an
next year,
expendable
right.
trust fund.
I mean, actually, if you, like, let's say you found some slot one in July 1st, you've got half a year in the budget.
Right, so it's
So
funded.
you could hire slot two, if you found somebody, you can still hire them.
Yeah,
It gives
because you've
you,
got 2 halves.
yeah,
Right.
you got 2 halves. If you hired them on January 1st, well then you couldn't, that would be difficult. But
Yeah.
right now, it doesn't seem like it.
Yeah.
That option.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, so
I think this is a good idea.
okay, so two things. One, what I'm hearing is you think it's a good idea to create an expendable trust.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you want to fund it with unassigned fund balance or
Yes.
from taxation?
I think unassigned fund balance makes a lot of sense. We've already raised it once. Why raise it again?
Right,
Right.
exactly. We've actually raised it 3 times.
Yeah.
Thank you for making my point.
Okay, so there it is in the unassigned fund balance. There's that, okay. Let's see, I think those, is there any big choices? I think those were the big choices
In
and,
the CIP.
and the CIP.
I think we're also gonna talk about the operating budget.
I'm sorry, my
You know,
brain
the
just stopped
department-
working.
Department.
Department by
The
department.
department.
Oh, yeah.
The,
The highway,
yeah.
okay.
But we've got $1 million department, and in the
Yeah.
ideal world, we would have none.
Okay, so let me get up here to highway.
Okay.
Parks and Rec.
What page is it on?
Okay. So, over the last, so this is sort of, highway is the biggest department, so that's why it's getting singled out. And we've already had a conversation with the fire department where we sort of discussed the gap between what's budgeted and what's actually spent. And as you know, we raise taxes on what is budgeted, not on actuals. Over the last 21, 22, and 23, if you average highway department spending over those 3 years, it averages 900,000 in actuals. If you add in 2024, which I don't have the final year for, so let's pretend it's the budgeted amount, which it won't be because that's actually more than it will be, but just for the sake of argument, let's throw it all in. We get to 943,000 average, okay? Obviously, there's a lot of contingency funding that we're all concerned about because storms can wipe out roads, etc. The last year budget was $1,068,000. Again, I can't tell you what 2024 will end at, but if we take the average over the last 4 years, it's 943,000. So the current request for the budget is $1,164,000, which is a solid $200,000 over average spending and $100,000 over last year's budget. So those are big numbers, and my non-road building opinion, maybe there's a little room for play there. Emery, did you have anything you wanted to? You might be on.
Sorry. No, that's, so what my thinking was, if we're not, we came up with 9%, that we were over, last year's, like, budget number to budget number, we were 9% more. So I wondered if it would be reasonable to cut out that 9%, and then keep it even with last year, and if we average what the highway department's been using, that would still give us, I think, more than enough, but, that was just my idea.
So taking the 1164 back to 1068.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And so that would be just about almost $100,000 reduction in that budget, and it would keep year over year equal, but you're still $100,000 over average spending.
What's their highest actual ever, 940, something like that?
No, highest actual is 901,
901, yeah.
I believe.
919, 967.
Yeah, I'm wrong, 919, 967, the highest actual, oh, I see, it was, the average is brought down by 2021. So 967 in 2022, and 919 in 2023. And then this year, I don't know, I don't know,
So there was one year was a 960,
7.
okay.
There were a couple of
What would that
nines.
be in today's dollars?
What?
Yeah.
And what would that be in today's dollars?
Right,
Yeah.
that's a good, yeah.
One of the good things is if the highway department runs out of money and we get 2 more blizzards, let's say, there is a provision for us later to go back and access the money in the unassigned fund balance to pay for an emergency situation. And that's one of the reasons that I'm comfortable making a fairly large cut in the budget request, because if you have an unanticipated emergency, you can still find ways to fund it.
Yeah, and I think I forwarded you documents on that, and
So I want to
did
understand
I send it to
that.
everybody?
I
I
think so.
will,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
Because the trouble is, it's for any department that never gets close to its actuals when they're submitting a new budget, we're taxing on the budget, not the actuals, and that's the
Yeah.
problem. So we need to get the budget closer to the actuals, in my opinion. And it's
And
the
of course
biggest
the-
department, so that's the one that's obviously going to be the
And
first
the
one.
department heads are always trying to, give them a cushion in
Mhm.
case you have the blizzard
Yeah.
or the road washout or something. But if we can fund it some other way, emergency funding, then
And the highway department has a large budget for, staff time, overtime, that is there for, blizzards and emergencies,
Yeah.
which
Right.
we've never spent that much money, so why tax people on it?
If you, the only thing that I was, when I talked to Keith about this, that I think to keep in mind too, is we haven't had, we had a few storms last year, toward the end of the winter, but we haven't had like a 2007 winter. Granted, that was like a record winter, so I
Yeah.
don't see that happening, but we haven't had, winter with, say, over 100 inches of snowfall recently, I don't believe. So I think that could vary a lot. I know that obviously if we have, a blizzard, we can fund it other ways. But then I feel like if we've drained our highway department budget to the point where we're not borrowing money, but using other monies to pay for emergency, would they still be able to do their day-to-day operations? Can we use the unassigned fund balance to fund that if we get to that point?
No, the unassigned fund balance would be for emergency.
emergency only.
But, so,
So would they have to draw down all their line item budgets for us to pull from the?
I don't
assigned
believe
fund balance?
so. I don't, I'd have to do a more careful read of, the rule on this. But basically, if you get knocked out by a storm like these, Hurricane Irene in Vermont, you can go to the Department of Revenue and get approval to use the money, and you're also going to FEMA to get, support to get some of that money back, which is, for instance, we're about to get, Zach has been working super hard on getting FEMA money. You've probably been involved too, Jim, I imagine. And I think it was April 1st and 2nd storm. We're probably going to get 50,000, which is great. If you had a big giant storm where you needed emergency funding, not only do you have, it's basically the unassigned fund balance is providing the cash flow. And theoretically, it takes a year
Yeah.
to get FEMA money back, but.
I think the point is just that we're not gonna have to burn down the old budget line items to be able to, if we come to
You
that
don't have
scenario.
to zero it out
So,
before you can get it filled in.
No.
we're not gonna have to worry about the highway department shutting down because.
No.
No.
There's a chance that the highway budget's gonna increase, because I think that Richard's looking at pulling some comps from other towns around salary, because our hourly rates are really quite low, like dramatically low compared to definitely the private sector, but also some other towns, and it's making hiring challenging.
The
So
other
we
thing-
just need to be prepared that there might be a bump up, there might be a justifiable bump that we're gonna have to factor into this.
And just FYI, in budgeting, I put in the full family insurance rate, which now is $32,000 a year per family. Yeah, and that's the cheaper version. One of the policies that we offer is $41,000 a year per family. It's stunning numbers. Anyway, in here is the cheaper option at $32,000 per family. So the hourly rate going up, it will have a bump, but it's,
The insurance is more of it.
yeah, I think we've got
But
most of
if we're
it.
talking about all the nickels that we're trying to get him down,
Right, yep.
nickels up count, so.
So,
I like the idea of level funding the highway department.
keeping it even with last year?
Yep.
Okay,
I was ready to go get it under $1 million, but I think level funding, let's at least try that.
okay, so I just entered into this, column O, what that would be, and now let's just go down and look down here. We've got all of that in there, I need to put the, I don't know where we ended up with, the fire truck number, but I'm sticking it in.
Just stick with that for right now.
Okay, and so now we're at, $5,076,000, and let me just make sure I've got the radio grant in there, I do, okay. And, so now we're at, about $5,076,000 as a budget. We have 81, we got that, we got that, we got that. Yeah, I know, okay, we got the contingency, which will actually go down. And so currently we're at about 300,000 spending on unassigned fund balance. And we are actually, and again, these numbers there's so many different things that play into this, so this isn't gonna be exact. A year from now, don't hold me to the exact number. But it looks like, so in 2024, our anticipated need from taxation was 2.94, which was actually pretty close to what we ended up needing to raise. And what we're saying now is that we're down by about, I don't know, 300,000. So that's really good news.
Yeah.
It is good.
And that's, again, a function of a strong unassigned fund balance that you can use to fund the truck and the compactor and all the different little things. And being tight with budgets. Many of the budgets are down. I mean, a lot of them are down 3 to 5%. Transfer station, rec was up just only 3%. Each, so there's people were very,
And then our percentage is still almost 17%.
Before you've spent anything, no, look at this one.
Okay.
14.6.
Okay.
And that,
So it's still.
and that's as low as
almost
you
at the-
wanna go,
At the max of our policy.
which leaves you some room for tax relief if you need it.
Right.
I mean, it's still, you could argue it should be lower. And go ahead and,
It's probably been a while since we've been under.
you know what's not in here? I didn't put the 152 to fund the fire truck thing, hang
I
on.
thought you just did.
You did.
Didn't you?
I put it in the expense side, I need to put it in the unassigned fund balance
Oh,
side.
yeah.
Okay, so now we're spending 450 instead of 300, and you're down to 13.5%, which is still the higher end of the policy. And in theory, and you really do want to keep it strong because that's what gives you cash flow
Right.
before the tax bills go out at the end of the year. But you should be okay with that.
I'm okay with that.
Okay. Okay, so what I am gonna leave in here is the fire truck capital reserve, 45,000 for a compactor, 64,000 for the half of an expendable trust for the police department, 81,000 towards the bridge because you're gonna use all the capital reserve for the bridge. And then the other big decision is 100,000 out of the highway budget. And then I'll hand the computer to you.
I'm just sorry, can you, for my own sake,
Yep,
for the 450 that you said we're using from the unassigned fund balance, can you recap what
Yeah.
what made up that 450?
yep. It's all listed right here. So it's 81,600 for the bridge, the Depot Road Bridge. It's 65,000 for
Police
Truck.
officer.
a truck.
Oh, truck, yeah.
A truck for the highway department, which then gives the maintenance side a used truck. It's 152,000 for a fire truck, for capital reserve. 45,000 for a compactor. 64,000 for
Police officer.
thank you, and 42,000. That number will go down. It's probably more like 35,000 for
Contingency.
the contingency fund.
Okay. Thank you.
Will you email us this latest copy?
Yes.
Thank you.
Email latest budget. I think that you have mostly met with all the departments that you expressed an interest in meeting with. The next round of meetings would be with people who are going to file for a petitioner for funding for town appropriations.
Outside agencies, yeah.
Yeah, outside agencies. I suggested, Emily, that can happen in January. They have to hand in their signed petitions by February 4th. But you can, so I thought Emily and I would start scheduling them tomorrow and next week to come in January. We'll set aside a whole meeting for that.
Have you gotten them in yet? The
I
requests
have
in yet?
gotten in, yes, I believe I've gotten all of them in. There might be one missing. Can't
Can you
remember.
plug in the new numbers? Because the numbers aren't updated on the
They're all the
yet.
same. They're all the,
Mine are completely different.
I did plug in your numbers, hang on.
Everybody else is the same?
Yep.
How
You're not-
interesting
you're-
that nothing changes.
I did change, so it's not 11 and 5, it's 6 and,
I don't remember, but the
Okay.
11 went way
I
down
don't
to
know why
8
that didn't
maybe,
save.
and, yeah.
yeah, I will fix that.
But I mean, if everything is exactly the same as it was last year, then that's a problem with our system, because we're supposed to be, I'm speaking as an outside agency person and as a select board member, the form is really clear that you're supposed to come up with a formula for how you are justifying each of these expenses. And
Right.
if it's not changing, does that mean
Means they're
you're
just-
doing exactly the same thing for exactly the same number of people every year? It doesn't make sense to me.
You think they're
Well, I think we
just
need
plugging
to,
in their numbers?
I
Yeah.
think we need to drive that point home. Yeah, they're just
I
looking,
mean-
they're looking for a little something on the side.
I mean, well, it's a pretty core source of funding, because
Oh,
a
yeah.
lot of them are going to many towns.
Yeah,
Yeah.
understood.
I think we should be thankful that they aren't asking for more to cover inflation. They're sort of
Yeah.
eating the increase in cost.
Well, I just still wanna see how it's, I still wanna see how it's justified, like what is the we ask, what's the per unit cost? And what are you providing to a Tamworth citizen for that per unit cost? And how do you derive your per unit cost? Like, that's the question in the form. So, I mean, maybe I'm missing something in basic economics, but it doesn't make sense that,
No, I think we understand. We
Yeah.
need to have that conversation with
yeah.
the people.
I don't know how,
who are
if there's a
informed.
way to prep them so that they don't come to the meeting not being able to answer the question.
Done everything trying to get,
Okay,
yeah.
I got questions.
Okay, let's, where's your head?
Yeah.
Okay,
Are you good with budget discussion?
I think that's it. If there are any department heads you want to have continued conversations with, let me know. And we'll go from there. I'm gonna stop sharing. No more sharing.
No more sharing.
And I think I can close this out.
Okay, we'll move on to old business. Fire tower engineering assessment.
Okay,
That
so
was
the
the-
Conservation Commission voted on the HEB bid.
That was
And
big
so you
400.
need to make a motion to accept their recommendation for the HEB contract. And it is in the signature file. I think it's towards the end. I have another copy here.
Right here it is.
And we gotta sign both of them, so.
Oh,
It's for, I think,
54.
54.
54.
So, yeah,
I make a motion we accept the HEB bid and award the contract for the fire tower engineering assessment to HEB in the amount of $5,400.
Second.
Roll call vote.
You say yes?
Barry, yes?
Schaefer, yes.
Prentice, yes.
So,
Is Roberts voting?
Roberts, yes.
so what is that for? Just curious.
They're gonna assess the structural integrity of the Great Hale Fire Tower.
Just to
Yeah.
make sure
do
it's
a current
safe.
inspection.
Yeah.
Okay, good idea.
Administrator's report.
Okay, Emery has to log off at 6:37.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you, Emery.
Thank you, Emery.
See you, Emery.
Okay, administrator's report.
That was it, wasn't it?
Things are good. Emily and I are sitting together all day, every day, enjoying each other's company and trying to transfer as much that's in here to there. I think that's going okay, right?
Yeah, it's working.
And, you know, I don't know, what else?
A lot of,
Oh, yeah.
people getting their tax bills and coming in.
It's busy time.
Mhm.
There's a lot of
Busy time.
learning, yeah.
Yeah. So we're making some, user-friendly guides to put outside the office, so they can kind of understand how their taxes were affected this year. Yeah. With the rebound. So.
Not that this is how people's taxes are affected, but one of the little charts Michaela made was the breakdown of your tax rate.
Mm-hmm.
And what I think is interesting, unfortunately they're on either side of the page, I can't hold them next to each other, but the school budget grew by 18%, the municipal budget shrank by 0.5%. And so the portion of the school budget, or the town's portion of the budget has shrunk as a result. And so, I don't know if we'll do anything with this chart, but
I
Michaela,
would love that chart.
oh,
Could I put that chart on the New Hampshire taxpayer, I'm sorry, the Tamworth taxpayers?
I don't see why not.
Your Facebook page?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
let
would
me,
be
there's a
great.
few little corrections I wanna make to it, but I can email it to you.
That would be great. I
Okay,
appreciate it
sure.
because
And I must have your
knowledge is-
email, right, Mark?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Send Mark tax chart. And we have another chart that Emily was working on today.
Do you have my email address?
I think so. What is it?
Skitech01.
Ski, T-E-C-H,
You got it.
01 at Gmail?
Comcast.net.
Comcast. Okay. Okay. So yeah, we're working on how to communicate with everybody what's happening.
Yeah.
And budget, and, you know, I'm trying to go through files and hand them off, and just, yeah, that's my report.
Good. The bank balance is $2,100,000.
Oh, thank you, yeah.
$2,175,292.
Which is a nice cushion. Lots of towns get down to zero right now.
Wow.
Yeah, and they have to borrow money and pay interest on it, so we're very fortunate we don't. And the tax bills are out, so now money's coming in.
Well, they're due in December, right?
Well, yeah, but money's,
People are coming in
people
paying
pay,
them.
some people come in on day one,
Wow.
yeah,
I'm
No
a holdout.
interest.
yeah.
Okay. We go to the signature file. I make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from November 7th, 2024.
Second.
Yeah.
Roll call vote.
You said yes?
Barry, yes?
Schaefer, yes.
Prentice, yes.
I make a motion to approve the non-public meeting minutes from November 7th under RSA 91A32B, Session 1, and A32C, Session 2.
Second.
Roll call vote.
You said yes?
Barry, yes?
Schaefer abstains.
Prentice, yes.
I make a motion to approve the New Hampshire State Form PA-16 application for reimbursement to towns and cities in which federal and state forest land is situated.
Second.
Roll call vote.
You say yes?
Barry, yes.
Schaefer, yes.
Prentice, yes.
Make a motion to approve the notice to for intent to cut, map 402, lot 1, access road, Fowler's Mill Road.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Did you say yes?
Bear, yes.
Schaefer, yes.
Prentice, yes.
I make a motion to approve the request to deposit funds to capital reserve form.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Did you say yes?
Bear, yes.
Schaefer, yes.
Prentice, yes.
Make a motion to approve the withdrawal from capital reserve fund form.
Second.
Roll call vote.
You say yes?
Bear, yes.
Schaefer, yes.
Prentice, yes.
We approved. We approve.
Yeah,
Yep.
we did that.
Okay. Make a motion to approve the accounts payable in the amount of $714,381.14.
Ouch.
Second.
Why so hard?
A bridge on Mountain Road for $152,044. Ambulance for $18,000. Road reconstruction, $4,600. HEB engineering, $6,100. Capital reserve, $187,500.
And that's the fire truck capital reserve.
Hauling from the transfer station for $14,000 and the school for $306,000.
Thank you.
Roll call vote.
Do you say yes?
Bear, yes.
Schaefer, yes.
Prentice, yes.
Cash used year to date, $10,554,117.32. Select board update.
Two things. Last year at town meeting, I'm gonna pass, that's one for everybody, I'm gonna pass these around. Last year at town meeting, there were two energy-related items that were passed. One was Tamworth residents now use community power as their default energy supplier, not Eversource. And so community power sent out these cards, there's a big stack of in the hallway that describes their rates and their competitors' rates. So the basic rate for Eversource is $8 and something per kilowatt hour, 8.6 cents per kilowatt hour. And the community power, their basic rate is just a hair under that. Eversource is 10.4,
And community power is
8.6. So
10.4 versus
8.6.
8.6.
So most people's energy bills went down by about 2 cents per kilowatt hour in Tamworth. You can pay a little more if you choose to have a higher percentage of renewables. And some people have done that. Our electric bills, we're paying, I think, at 10 cents per hour. So even if you go for 50% renewable, you're still paying less than the Eversource rate. So, people in Tamworth are saving money because of the vote that was taken in last year at town meeting. The other item that was passed that's energy related in the last year's town meeting was improvements to this building. One was insulation in the attic space, and the other was air exchangers. The insulation happened about 2 days ago. So it's about a foot more of cellulose in the attic. So our energy bill in this building should go down, and we can track that over time to see. I don't think anything's happened with the air exchange.
I put out a request to 3 companies and nobody has responded. So I'm not quite sure what to do about that.
Yeah.
I think Roland's, is that what they're called? They are doing the library.
Okay.
But if we're not in contract by the end of the year,
Please send me that information because I might have something too.
okay.
So I think we need to make a push on that, or we'll have to, may have to forego the air exchange. I think all public buildings where there's public meetings should have good air exchange. I think we all learned in COVID we need the cleanest air we can get in public buildings. And every restaurant would be good too, if you ask me. But those are the two energy-related items that I wanted to talk about, and that's it for me.
Okay. I wasn't able to make the library trustees meeting, but I'm sure they're just still working on their budget mostly. I was at the Veterans Day ceremony up at the memorial, We had a good turnout. We had some technical difficulties with the computer and the speakers. And also the wind made it challenging. But a lot of people showed up and we remembered our veterans. That was the important part. And that's all I have.
Okay. I worked at the transfer station a bit, talking with Brian about ongoing operations. Actually, Richard, I have another possible bidder on the bathroom contract. I didn't know if you wanted me to message you that, or?
Sure.
Okay.
Send it to me and I can send them the bid documents or a link to them.
Done.
We've had like 4 requests or something.
Yeah, we've had a handful of requests for bidders. I sent it out to 2 and made a phone call to another. So we have, people are thinking about it. There's a pre-bid meeting on the 21st of November, I think, so potential bidders could come and see the site and have a walk around.
Just sent you
That's next week.
information. I also called a few other people that I knew and seeing if they were interested as well. I also wanted to just say thanks to Chief Littlefield. I had a couple of chances to interact with him in his professional world this week, and top notch, great job. Everything was dialed in and tight. I couldn't be happier to call him our chief. So thank you, Chief, very much for that. And then I guess the last honorable mention was I had a nice resident stop by while I was on my walk and just wanted to say thank you. And I was kind of so just dazed by the wonderfulness of the stop to roll down the window to say thank you that I forgot to find out who her name was. So I wanted to say thank you for thanking me, and I'm sorry I forgot to ask you who your name was. But that's it for me.
I met with Linda Medeiros and about the traffic safety committee. And they're regrouping. They've had a couple of resignations, but it's a tight group right now, and they're tackling the charter. And they've gotten their hands on a copy of a 10-year project plan proposal that was just accepted, that just won funding, so they can really see like what the committee's looking for. Because if you look at a blank application, it's challenging. So they're feeling confident, ready to move ahead, and they are already kind of planning on what next steps might be for them after completing the Shakora challenge that they're taking right now. I met with the Conservation Commission at their meeting Monday just to get their feedback about the property. We already heard from Ned Beecher's the chair about their response to that. And we had the LRPC exec board meeting on Wednesday. And an interesting thing about that anybody in town, like local contractors can be part of this, can go to this meeting. It's in Bridgewater at 6 p.m. on the 25th. It's the monthly LRPC commissioner meeting, but members of the public can go. And this one is on stormwater runoff and culverts and the whole culvert assessment program. And I know Richard knows about that, but it just seems so timely given the past couple of years we've had with the huge washouts. So I would say anybody who's interested in that, because it's your line of work, you can go on LRPC's website and.
And that's what, like a learning session?
It's their commissioner meeting, so every month they have their
topic.
2-hour meeting
Okay.
with a topic, and this one is an expert, and I can't remember her name, on stormwater runoff and culverts. And it involves funding as well as structural planning and how to make assessments and timelines for your town's kind of ongoing maintenance. So that was it for me.
Okay. Is there any public input?
This is Maureen, I have a few things, but is there someone in the audience who's speaking?
No?
Nope.
Go ahead, Maureen.
Okay. First of all, and I haven't read the minutes from last week, I apologize for that, but it seemed to me at the end of the meeting, during the select board reports, there was some discussion about the transition time for Emily and Keats, and some disagreement about when when that would happen. I just wonder if that's been resolved, or will we have information about that in the future?
I was the one pushing back about the timeline, and I am comfortable with the timeline now.
Thank you, thank you. So it's an early December transition, am I right?
December
2nd,
is when
Thank
Emily
you,
starts.
thank you.
right.
But because of the way the
And then,
vacation fall,
Just on the topic of your frustration that the nonprofits who are coming to you for funding haven't reduced their requests with a quick overview of what people are asking. There are few people in town that I respect more than you, Leanne, for the work that you do. But I would say, in my own little case with the community food center, we have increased some services. We have lost considerable revenue just late in the year based on the New Hampshire Food Bank declining significant offerings at this expensive time of year for us, and an important time for the clients we serve, a service we love to provide, but it's just coming from our cash reserves this year entirely. And we also believe that we will be supporting some increased need in the near future. So, there's those things to consider too. And then the last comment.
Maureen, can I just speak to that real quick? I was not suggesting that we all needed to drop our amounts down. I just want to see an accurate accounting because, again, speaking for me now, taking my hat off, wearing my Bear Camp Center director hat, one of my numbers went down dramatically, but my other number increased because it changes every year based on the need. So I'm just expressing frustration if it's a static number year after year, because that's not how the form is framed. So I would, based on the work I know that you do with the food bank, based on what you just said, I think that if you can find a way to document that, then it's legitimate to ask for more if the need for townspeople has increased. I'm just saying I would like to see a little more forensic accounting so that we know that we're really doing the work that we need to support people in town in need, and we're not
Being complacent.
We're not being complacent. That's a nice way to say it, yeah. So I wasn't trying to say at all that everybody should just be dropping their numbers.
I appreciate that, Leanne.
Yeah.
And I also, oh gosh, what other thought
Oh, I'm
was I about
sorry.
to say?
Yeah.
I do appreciate that. What I was thinking of, I think the wording in the appropriation form was very good this year, very strong. We shouldn't be looking at other places for funding. We should be reporting, what would I say, in-kind donations and things like that, which I don't know that we always ask for. So I think that was very good, and I appreciate that, and I've made an effort to comply with that. So enough said. And then the final thing that I had to say, I'm aware of how much the school budget has affected our tax rate. And it is frustrating to have the two groups that compose the biggest part of our tax rate meeting on Thursday evenings. I don't know if anything can be done about that. I really like hearing meetings live, and of the two meetings, this one is the one I invest my time in because I don't have children in the school system, value education very highly, but this means this is something I can relate to more than the school board, if I have to prioritize them, but I shouldn't have to.
Right,
So
no.
that's what I'm, end of subject. Thank
I thought
you.
they met on Monday.
No, they meet same exact time. Thursdays.
Thank you, Maureen.
Yeah, thanks, Maureen.
And we are gonna try to work it out with the school board so that we can have more communication in the future.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Any other?
There's gonna be a long, time frame when you're gonna work this together.
Yeah, well, I mean,
It's been going on for a while.
yeah, Emily and I met with the principal and the superintendent just the other day, and everybody at the table agreed. we should be talking, so we just have to figure out,
Yeah, and I was actually gonna do a little, bit of background work, trying to see if the board would be willing to meet as soon as I start. Perhaps you guys could change to Mondays, so we're kind of working out, but we have to work around other committees and the room and the calendar, but I would suggest Mondays. It's just a little bit of an easier workflow to, give you guys agenda prep on Fridays, give you a few days to digest it, meet on Mondays, and then carry out the work the rest of the week. So if the board is open to that, it's up for discussion.
Does that work for, I thought that one of the reasons for Thursday was because of payroll and accounts payable and end of the week financial stuff.
Yeah,
Okay.
Elaine and I had talked about it. I'll have to check in.
I mean, that's just I think we can solve that.
I didn't realize the school was also on Thursday.
Why is it the duty of the principal and not the school committee?
Duty of the.
Because you said you met with the principal.
Oh, he was just bringing it up as an example of
we met on another, we were talking about the recreation department and the use of the gymnasium. That was the reason for the meeting. And we were making the comment that there was a lack of communication there. And then also, we felt like we ought to be communicating more the select board and the school board. So it was just.
Yeah.
So in the next week, maybe, I don't know if you want to put together proposals to see if the select board would consider moving to Monday. I think from a workflow perspective, aside from the check question, it would work very well.
I just need notice because I have to change 2 board meetings that are on, Mondays are gonna be hard.
Monday's a tough one.
LRPC's on Monday, I've got no control over that. And you've got 2 select board members who are commissioners.
Okay, so it may not be possible.
Right. Tuesday?
Yes,
Is it somebody waiting in the
Mr. Chairman.
stands?
Yes.
Don't you have you have a school board, but now do you have a representative of this town that lives here that was elected to that board?
We have a Tamworth school board that is only Tamworth people.
And they're elected.
And then there's the SAU.
So why doesn't that board send a liaison over here to give you quarterly or monthly reports?
Well, we go to the library, but we don't go to the school, we don't have a rep to the school board meetings.
It's much more,
I
yeah.
mean, imagine,
I mean, no offense, library's wonderful.
No, I
But-
know.
just imagine once a
Yeah.
quarter or once a month.
Yeah.
The representative comes in here and then, displays something, what's going on in the school, awards, projects. Because I hear there are school projects over there that they're working on.
Yeah.
I think they were involved in the recycling, I believe, somehow.
Yep.
We did that whole
They did the
painting.
murals that are
Correct.
at the recycling.
Exactly.
It's
So
the
that kind of
best looking
stuff.
thing at the recycling.
So those kind of things could be discussed on a regular
Yeah.
basis.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, but I think even more importantly, we should consider having a rep, the same way we go to Conservation Commission, Planning Board, all of those other committees that we have in town, because we wanna be informed about what the different facets of town government and management are doing. And the fact that we don't have a rep to the school board going to school board meetings seems odd when it's the biggest financial piece of our pie.
Mm-hmm.
It's an elected board, right?
Yes, yep. I mean, I know none of us wants to add another,
Right.
another meeting, but it just seems like that's an
That's why
important one to add.
That's why they should come to you.
Well, I'd love that too,
And only I can say that.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for saying
I'll give you $1 after the meeting.
that, yeah.
All right. I make a motion to go into non-public under RSA A:32C.
Second?
Roll call vote.
You say yes?
Barry, yes. Schaefer, yes.
Regis, yes.
7 o'clock.
We're
On the
now
nose.
non-public at 7 o'clock. Good night. Thank you.
Good night, thanks a lot, Mark.
Thank you
Good night.
for having me.
Come anytime.
Have a good night.
Yeah, we'll see you later.
Bye, Maureen.
Good night, Maureen. Still there.
You can't say HVAC.
Really?
You gotta say HVAC.
Oh, we all call it HVAC.
Right. I I call it HVAC.
Yeah.
That's
When you hear it 15 times in a meeting and you're saying one thing and they're saying another, it stands out.
7:08.
make a motion to come out of non-public at 7:08.
Second?
Roll call vote.
You say yes?
Bear, yes?
Schaefer, yes.
Prentice, yes.
Good.
Minutes are not sealed.
Minutes are not sealed. Motion to adjourn.
Voila.
Awesome.
Voila.